I don't know why I like that song so much. It's so catchy.
It is very catchy. I was over here just kind of bobbing to it. It's a nice little wake up in the morning.
It is, exactly. It's perfect for college football mornings here by
It is.
campuscanton.com. Waiver Wire Tuesday. As always, Colin and I are here. I know I didn't do our usual thing. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I forgive you.
We're going to talk some waiver wire stuff with you guys. A few names here tonight. We do just want to stress before we begin here. I know we always kind of have like some little caveat. And tonight's is that realistically, by this point, your waivers in your league, unless you have super limited waivers, they're probably pretty picked over at this point. So some of the names that we're giving you, like none of these are slam dunk guys. They're really going to be roster dependent. I do just want to mention before we begin that there are in some of my leagues still some of these guys we've already talked about on here floating around that I would still recommend, and some other guys as well that have some slightly higher rostership, but I think depending on your league might be available. And just some names that I'm going to toss out here real quick. Curtis Rourke, who we talked about last week, Doug Brumfield, quarterback at UNLV. He's available, and I think he's an interesting guy here. That offense has continued to click. Ja'Shawn Jackson, wide receiver, Ball State. Joshua Cephas, UTSA. Just a couple of guys that I do see floating around. And I think if they're out there, maybe go take a look and snag them. But let's get into the names that we have listed here for you guys. We only have one name for limited waiver runs this week. And this one is kind of like, it's a tight end. So if you're set at tight end, I'm not going to pick this guy up, but Tanner Kazi.
That's why I gave you
this one to me. It's not
That's
cool.
why I gave you this one.
Tanner Kozile, I think is how you say it. Yeah, tight end of Ball State. 7% rostered on Fantrax. 31 fantasy points last week, guys. He had 16 and 20 the 2 weeks prior. So great for just tight end scoring as a whole. If you need somebody there, he has a touchdown in every game except for one so far. And his last 3 games, 10 targets, 6 targets, and 11 targets. So he's involved in this Ball State offense. Oh, and did I mention, Colin, that he is a freshman?
You did not mention that.
Oh, so we probably have a couple years left of Tanner here. I'm not going to say his last name again. So that's why we put him in this category. Realistically, if you already are pretty set at tight end, maybe you're not burning a limited waiver run on this guy, but he's a good player. He's in the MAC. I think he has a couple of good years in front of him here. So Tanner Kozile, tight end, Ball State, go get him. That's probably not how you say it. I don't care.
Yeah, I'm glad I gave you that one for the pronunciation part, but I do think he is definitely worthy of an ad. Like you said, if you're set at tight end, most leagues only start one, so you probably don't need to rush and pick him up there. But him being a freshman, being in the MAC, that's going to have multiple years of value there. You're looking at like 4 years of value here, and that's really valuable for a tight end.
Yeah.
Couple of deep league or unlimited waiver ads that we have here. First one, we have Dorian Singer, wide receiver for Arizona. He is currently 3% owned there on Fantrax. He had a huge week this past week, 31 fantasy points. He had 18 fantasy points the week before that. He's got at least 7 targets in every single game so far this year. And that Arizona passing attack has been starting to cook a little bit here. They do have Jacob Cowling there. He's going to be the number 1 target, but he's probably gone after this year. He does have one more year of eligibility, but you got to think after having a solid year, he might test the waters here. Dorian Singer is only a sophomore. I know they have Tet McMillan there, but Dorian Singer he's outplaying Tet McMillan right now. I don't see him not being involved in the offense moving forward. So you got a couple of years of Dorian Singer there. So he's a guy that I would add, in an unlimited league or if it's a deeper league.
Yeah, and his teammate Wiley there, the running back, has also been fairly productive lately. We didn't put him on the list here, but just another guy to keep an eye on there. Had a couple of touchdowns again this week, and I believe he had multiple the week before as well. Maction time of the year, guys. It's really hard not to just recommend a ton of guys in the MAC because you're about to get a lot of 50 to 45 scores on Wednesday nights the rest of the week. John Paddock, quarterback at Ball State, 2% rostered. I'm not a huge fan of his personally, but it's hard to argue that they don't have weapons there for him. Surprisingly, we thought they'd really struggle without Justin Hall, who was their top guy last year. He graduated and moved on. He's floating around the NFL. I don't know if he's officially on a roster or on a practice squad at this point, but they had Johannes Tyler coming back. They had Ja'Shawn Jackson, and now they have the tight end helping them out as well. So Carson Steele in the backfield. Not a bad group to have there. And Paddock has had 40 pass attempts in every game so far this year. So the volume is certainly there. You got to figure if you're playing against some weaker defenses here, he can capitalize from a fantasy perspective. 3 games over 300 yards, pretty good. Had 400 yards last week. And he's a junior, so he has at least another year or two left on him there as well. So John Paddock, not a guy that I'm rushing for, to be honest. But if you're really kind of getting thin at quarterback here, maybe you're relying on a Brennan Armstrong and, maybe you've got Bryce Young out for a couple weeks here or something like that. You could do a lot worse than John Paddock.
Yeah, I mean, Mac QBs have kind of been a staple of the past show. Like I think we've had one on each of the last ones here. So, there's a lot of Mac QBs that you can pick up and play, which is really nice. But yeah, probably not rushing out to get him. But if you like you said, if you're struggling at quarterback, certainly worth a look. A wide receiver worth a look here is Monterey Baldwin at Baylor. He's a little bit higher percentage owned at 22%, but I do see him floating out there in a lot of leagues. So we wanted to put him on the list here. Big week this last week, 7 catches for 174 yards and 2 touchdowns on 9 targets. You'll love to see the volume there. Week 1, he had 4 catches on 4 targets for 84 yards and a touchdown. He got some return work in there as well. Starting to battle a little bit of injuries the last 2 weeks, but it looks like he might be back and healthy here. He is a sophomore as well. So you're looking at, probably like another 2 years here from him. He is lightning quick. He is the field stretcher here for this team, kind of in that Tyquan Thornton-esque type of a role. That they've been kind of looking for somebody to fill here. And it looks like maybe this is going to be Monterey Baldwin. So probably a boom bust type of a guy, but those boom weeks are going to be really nice.
Yeah, maybe you prefer him in best ball, one of those kind of guys. But certainly a good player there. Last name on the list here that we have that we're officially recommending, Casey Filkins, running back at Stanford. Stanford tends to lean on a bell cow. EJ Smith, it was announced last week, is done for the year. Injured himself in that USC game, and he left that game early. We all kind of figured there was an issue there. Looked like a wrist or something like that. I haven't heard a confirmation on that, but he's done. Filkins, over 100 yards from scrimmage the last couple of weeks, was pretty good against Oregon statistically. 19 carries, 6 targets. So he's going to get the volume, I think, regardless of game script. Like they were behind in that one, and he still got 25 touches. I think he'll continue to get that kind of volume there. So he's kind of a 1-year guy. Like you got to figure EJ Smith probably comes back. He looked really good, but I don't think he can go to the NFL off the back of like 3 games. So he is purely just toward the end of the year guy. But if you just need the points this year, then he's another guy to look at. Real quick, guys, just one other name I want to throw out that I just looked him up because I was shocked to see. I wanted to see what he was at. Dominic Lovett, the wide receiver from Missouri, is actually at 10% rostered on Fantrax. He has yet to really hit like consistent like 18, 19, 20 point weeks, but he's the leading receiver there at Missouri over Luther Burden. Was a decent recruit coming out of high school. This is his 2nd year in college, and he's leading a team in the SEC in receiving. I think he could do a lot worse than Dominic Lovett. I'm actually shocked that he's only at 10%. So he's a guy that if I have unlimited waivers, I'm going after.
Yeah, if you're in a league with Felix, probably not on your waiver wire. He's been hyping him up for a little bit.
I taught him who Dominic Lovett was.
I just remember on the College Fantasy Tonight this past week, he had brought up Dominic Lovett. I know I've heard him mention him before too, but
went to high school with Tyler Macon. Well known fact. All right, guys, I think that's going to do it for our show here tonight. Make sure to tune in every day here on the Campus to Canton YouTube page for college football mornings. Matt and Chris will have the rest of the week's lineup here for you guys. We'll be around this week for the C2C pod, and you'll see both of our beautiful faces on the tailgate. Until next time, guys, I'm Austin.
And this is Colin.
And have a good one.